Hey gang, I am Joe Edelman and welcome to this episode of The Last Frame Live. Tonight, AI. It seems like we can't escape it. Is it the end of photography as we know it? Maybe, kinda. We'll see. We're gonna dig in. But I promise to do a Q&A, and I want you to do me a favor tonight. I'm gonna tip my hand here, but this is a topic that I think is getting a lot more attention in the photography world than it deserves. Now, some people disagree with me, and that's fine, but my point is it's nothing that we need to worry about right now, so I want to touch base on it. But look, if you're going to spend an hour here with me, I want to make sure that we are helping you advance your photography. So this is a worthwhile discussion to create awareness and a little bit of understanding, but that discussion is not going to advance your photography. So please, if you're here and if you're going to stay, how can I help you? What are you struggling with? What questions do you have? What decisions are you trying to make? Santa Claus or whomever is coming in a couple weeks. You may have some extra money. Maybe you're planning on buying some new gear, trying to make the right choices. Type those questions. Before I wrap up, I'll do my best to answer all of them, okay? And by the way, if you're watching the replay, chapter notes will be down below so you can click and jump through the stuff that you don't want to see. And of course, if you are watching the replay, do me a favor, leave me a comment below the video to let me know that you were here, right? Period. Already live. Gosh, we got a lot of people here. We got Don from Illinois. Ruben's here from Washington, D.C. John is here from Harrisburg. Robert in New Mexico. I got Paul and Ron are here from Tomorrow in Australia. Ty in New Jersey. John's in Nashville. I'll be down in Nashville soon. Willie over in Germany. Calvin in Bago Lake, Maine. Wow, there we go. Keith in Virginia. Who else? John in Wyandotte. Edward in Trinidad and Tobago. He was here nice and early today. We got Grant in Burbank. Whole lot of people. So all of you, thank you for being here with me tonight. Thank you for participating in this conversation. All of you are part of a growing global community of photographers in over 100 countries who tune in to watch The Last Frame every week. And for that, I'm going to work really hard to help you with your photography. And you know the drill. As always, it would help a lot more people find out about The Last Frame if you do me a solid, hit that thumbs up down below the video. That way YouTube recommends the show to more photographers, right? And of course, while you're down there, do feel free to go ahead and hit that share button. Let your photography friends know that we are streaming live on YouTube right now. You can just go ahead and hit share, or you can do lastframe.live and send that out. Twitter, Facebook, they're usually the fastest way to get the word out. So I'm going to do a trade. I'm counting on you guys. I want questions. I want us to get into the good stuff tonight. But just a couple reminders. I've been talking about these for the last couple of weeks, so I'll mention them again. ImagingUSA, I'm going to be doing a hands-on class on Saturday the 21st, and I'll be doing a platform talk on Sunday the 22nd, opening day of the show. I hope to see you in Nashville. I'm going to be doing a photo walk in March 6th, by the way, at WPPI in Las Vegas. Always look forward to going to Las Vegas. And then in April, I will be at Texas School. Also, and I'm going to do a screen share here, and I will share this page with you. On my website, I have started posting, they're not all there yet, but I've started posting my 2023 schedule of virtual presentations that I'll be doing. A lot of new ones for this year coming up, and even some of the older topics that I have done before. Every single one of these presentations has been overhauled, redone, and it's basically brand new. So if there are things there that can help you out, you should check them out. And I hope to see you in one of my virtual programs next year. Okay? All right. So this week's discussion, it's AI, right? And is it the end of everything? Because it seems like literally everywhere we turn right now, we see those two letters, AI. We see them in our cameras. We see them on our phones. We see them on our computers. Of course, we see them in software. And lately, I'm finding the photography blogs and social media, but they are blowing up about all the supposed threats that AI creates for photographers. And yet, ironically, photographers generally love the added capabilities that AI has brought to things like autofocus in their cameras. You know, if you spend 10 minutes on Facebook, and honestly, this happened to me 15 minutes before I came online, you scroll through the feeds of photographers or photography groups, and you'll be convinced that the sky is falling, the world is ending, and AI is going to steal your soul, right? So look, I know some of you are impatient, and I told you this is not going to teach you photography tonight. It's a conversation that people need to be aware of, people need to be learning a little bit about, but I'm telling every one of you, there is literally nothing that you need to stress about right now. So for those of you that are impatient, I'm going to do this in the hopes that you might actually go and pick up your cameras and use them instead of watching a YouTube video. Here's what you came here to find out. AI in my opinion, AI represents an excellent opportunity for every photographer. Scott, I see you there typing away, but let sure everybody knows, since Scott's pimping out ImagingUSA, Scott works for ImagingUSA. So do me a favor, Scott, at least identify yourself, okay? If you're gonna go ahead and mention it. I don't mind you mention it, let people know about it. I've already done a talk chat interview about it, but let's be transparent with people, okay? That's why I don't have sponsors anymore and why I didn't allow Imogen to sponsor me when they asked. So AI represents an excellent opportunity for every photographer, from hobbyists all the way to seasoned professionals. Excellent opportunity. But because it's new, let's be real, right? It's gonna have some speed bumps that need to be flattened out. AI itself, listen closely to this statement. AI itself will not change a thing and will not do anything bad. People will. It's that simple. So, in my opinion, the good very much outweighs the bad. So there you go. That's the summary. Now, answer me this, gang. How many other photographers on YouTube will encourage you to skip their video and actually go and take pictures instead? Look, I'm not here for the views and the likes. I'm determined to make a difference. So if you're gonna hang around, that's cool, but you owe me. You gotta go and shoot before you come back next week, right? So I mentioned earlier, you know, all this stuff on Facebook, and it's ironic. This afternoon, I saw right in a row 3 posts pop up on my feed from photographers highlighting some of the bad things that are going on with AI. And let me be clear, you know, I gave you the summary review. There are some bad things going on, but it's not AI that's bad. It's the people that either have created the various AIs or people using AIs. They're doing the bad things. We'll get to that, right? So, you know, these 3 Facebook posts highlighting these things that people are doing with AI and making AI sound evil, and yet all 3 of the photographers had a profile image that was created in the Lensa app, which is AI. I mean, come on, people. You want to have your cake and eat it too? Really? I mean, they're using and they're promoting the very thing that they're villainizing. Not to mention that they're publicly showing that they lack creativity. And if you're one of those people, yes, you lack creativity because all you've done is you've jumped on the same bandwagon as thousands of other people. Remind me, what is the definition of a zombie again? Just saying, right? So let's deal with some facts. And I'm not kidding. If you're still here, you owe me camera time before next week's episode, right? Do the work. So just to be clear, what is AI? Because I know that some of you, and I'm actually proud of those of you that really don't know what AI is. Trust me, enjoy your ignorance. Stay there for a while. Not too long, but for a little while, you're cool, all right? Artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligent processes by machines. Specifically in the case we're talking about, it's basically computer systems. Even what's in your cameras, it's computer systems, right? So full disclosure, I think that this is an awesome concept. And honestly, so do you. You do. All of you do. Look, in my defense, I grew up watching the Jetsons, and I'm thrilled that I can walk around my house and tell it what I want it to do, and it just does it. Like, I can turn the lights on, I can have it vacuum the floors, I can have it show me who's at the front door so I can tell solicitors to take a hike without running down the stairs. But all that didn't come from a cartoon. This is what humans do. All of us, humans, society, historically, this is what we do. We look for ways to make things quicker, easier, cheaper, and often better as a result. Even Imaging AI that Scott was talking about, that's what it does. It makes things quicker, easier, cheaper, and in many cases, better. That's the idea. We all like quicker, cheaper, easier, and better. And I'm not saying anything about sacrificing quality or anything like that, but we like quicker, easier, cheaper, and better. We're wired that way. So relax on your, for those of you that have this attitude, relax on your negative attitude of AI. Oh, it's evil. Oh, it's bad. Oh, it's going to steal my copyrights. Oh, it's going to do this. AI is not doing any of that. There are people with disrespectful business practices who have made some poor choices. Absolutely. And those people are getting outed. There will be lawsuits. Things will get flushed out. And 99.999% of you that will ever watch this video have not been touched by any of that legal drama and will not be touched by any of that legal drama. So does that mean we ignore it? We don't care? No, of course not. We should care. But at the same time, does that mean that it's going to be the end of photography as we know it? Well, actually, listen closely. Yes, it is. But I say that with a smile on my face because I'm excited. 22 years ago, I bought a Nikon D1. That was the end of film photography as I knew it. The fact of the matter is, every day, every single day, tomorrow will be the end of photography as we know it. Friday will be the end of photography as we know it, because every single day, our industry is evolving. The technology is evolving, the gear is evolving, software is evolving, people are evolving, trends are evolving, styles are evolving. Creativity, thank God there's still some of that around. Hard to find sometimes, but it's out there. It's evolving. So it's never the same as it was yesterday at all, right? So number one, let's all relax. Understand, gang, look, it's just like television. It's just like, the difference between CNN or Fox News, right? As long as we keep watching that stuff, they're going to keep feeding it to us. Same with the photography blogs. As long as we keep clicking on those articles, it's like, oh my God, photography is never going to be the same. AI is going to ruin it. It's going to change it. It's going to destroy it. Photographers won't be needed. They'll be replaced. Why should anybody buy stock photos? Because they can just do them with computers. All that stuff. Some of that stuff's legitimately going to happen. Some of that stuff will impact some photographers. But the photographers that it does impact, if they are good business people, they will evolve. Because that's what you should be doing anyway, both as a business person and, more importantly, as a creative. So, yes, I have no doubt that there are people listening to this and watching this right now who could probably, right off the top of their head, because they've probably digested way more articles than I have, could probably tell me about all of the lawsuits that have already been filed over copyright infringement, can talk in complete ad nauseum about the fact that so many of these AI programs have just grabbed images off the internet and off of Google. And when you use a lot of these programs, you will see photographers' watermarks show up. You will see actually major portions of photographers' pictures, all that kind of stuff. Yes, but that is not the AI's fault. An AI is just a piece of software that humans have to program. Now, I want to be clear. Is it right that these companies went and just grabbed all these images without asking for permission and ran them through their software to build up this database to create an AI? Well, the problem here is the courts are going to have to decide that. I certainly will be the one to say, hey, it would have been nice for them to at least notify the photographers and ask for permission, because I'm confident many photographers would have given permission. But the fact of the matter is, the courts may not rule against these companies for that purpose, simply because the works that the AIs are designed to spit out are derivative. Now, of course, this could vary from one country to the next, but in the United States, derivative works are rather broadly protected. Now, when the AI fails because it's poorly programmed, then sure, I'm a big believer the company that's created that particular AI has left themselves open to litigation. That's great. That's for the courts to work out. And the photographers whose watermarks were shown and their reputations, whatever, were harmed, absolutely, they should be reimbursed. But is that hurting the rest of us? No. In fact, I choose to see this AI situation. And by the way, I mentioned, Imogen, since Scott typed it in. I'm not talking about Imogen. In fact, for most of you that are sitting here right now, sorry to say this, Scott, Imogen is of no value to you. Imogen is still at a point where it's a great piece of software, but it is geared primarily for wedding photographers. I'm sure that they've gotten other uses on board. And as of last check, they want to build your personal AI, which is one of the things it does, which is great. It builds an AI for you, but they need about 5,000 images. And I don't mean 5,000 random images. I mean 5,000 wedding images to be able to build that AI. So Scott, if I'm wrong on those numbers, you can correct those numbers. But I will say after this, I don't want to hear about Imogen for the rest of the night. I don't want to turn this into a commercial for Imogen. But the fact of the matter is, gang, it's not going to work for most of you yet. Down the road, heck yeah. It's a very promising piece of software. But it is not ready for the bulk of the users that are here. Okay, Scott just said they're down to 3,000, which is awesome. And understand, gang, that's the beauty of AI, right? As the AI gets smarter, as the people behind it, the programmers, and Imogen is based, Scott's here in the US, Imogen is based out of Tel Aviv, Israel. As the guys behind it are awesome. Again, there's an interview on my website. You can go back through Talk Chat. I interviewed those guys back during the pandemic. They're awesome. In fact, they were kind enough, they did their interview while Tel Aviv was being bombed, which is just hard to imagine. But so anyway, the fact is they're brilliant. And the fact that they've dropped it down from 5,000 to 3,000 now, even better yet. And it will probably get lower as it gets smarter, right? But I choose to look at all of this AI as a huge opportunity. And even, I hate to tell you, even the AI as it exists today. So imagine if we could just freeze AI where it's at. And when I'm talking about AI now, I'm talking about these apps that you have for your phone, like Lensa, and really all of them that are out there. But there's a whole bunch now that are phone apps, right? In fact, the top 3 selling apps, or I think 3 of the top 5 selling apps on the App Store right now are AI apps. Okay, I think there's opportunity for portrait photographers to actually use those apps when they're photographing high school seniors, when they're photographing people in their teens and in their 20s, and even some in their 30s. If they're photographing branding packages for people with social media profiles and they've come to them for branding images, why not offer those AIs as an add-on service? If you're doing a senior portrait session, most of the senior portrait images that you would shoot are not really going to help train the AI apps. And by the way, full disclosure, I tried them. I'm fascinated by it. But you're not going to see me post any of them because they're not my original works yet. So at this point, they really need a lot of face. Fine. So you bring a kid in, you're doing a senior portrait session, and you could go ahead and during that session, sit the kid down, even if you're shooting on location, sit the kid down against a fairly solid background and shoot a whole bunch of angles and poses, like literally in about 3 minutes. Okay? You go and load them into an app like Lensa, spend the $8 or whatever it is to get the 20 or the 50, image feed out, and then offer them as a service, as part of the senior portrait package. Because the kids indeed think they're cool, right? So there is an opportunity even today, if we were just to freeze everything right where it's at, there is an opportunity today for photographers to be making money. But yet, so many of the people that I see bitching and whining and complaining about AI on social media, and if you're one of them, listen close, because I'm pointing a finger at you and I stand by it. You're lazy and your business deserves to fail. It will fail because you don't want to do the work, right? Business evolves. Your clients evolve. Technology evolves. You can't expect to be doing the exact same thing that you're doing today 5 years from now or 10 years from now and still be in demand. You can't. And sadly, most of these photographers that are bitching the loudest, and I know that I'm going to get kickback on this, so be it. Most of these photographers that are bitching the loudest, when you go and you look at their work, they're zombie photographers. They're photographers that follow the trend. They're doing the same crap that everybody else is doing. They're not doing unique things. They're not doing anything that makes them stand out. They're the same photographers. These photographers complain about AI. They complain about competition. They think somehow that because they've invested in all this gear and because they have gone ahead and put out a shingle and said, hey, I'm a professional photographer, they think that they are somehow entitled to not have competition, to have people have to pay them, right? That's not how business works. I saw one person mention along the way that they see the idea of using the Lensa app as potential inspiration because, yeah, indeed, a lot of what Lensa does is actually very kind of beauty-oriented. Actually, a lot of stuff that looks like mine. For all I know, they use some of my images. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. And as long as they don't actually spit out my exact image, good for them. I think it's cool. Let's see where it goes. I'm happy to be a part of it if I am. So it could be used for inspiration. Absolutely. It could be used for idea generation. It could also be used, not Lensa, but some of the other AIs, it could be used to create settings, backgrounds. So many photographers are doing composited backgrounds at this point. There is an almost unlimited potential for composited backgrounds. So the real moral here, gang, and then I'm going to wrap this up because really that's all there is to it. It's like a no-story story. The story is how exciting and how cool. And yes, there are side stories of people dealing with companies who acted poorly. But the fact of the matter is right now in the photography world, there is more benefit coming to us photographers from these two letters, AI, than there is harm. So does that mean we ignore the bad stuff? No, absolutely not. That means we have to be aggressive. We have to stand together. We have to make sure that we are fighting for copyright protections where it applies. All of those things, absolutely. We have to realize that some photographers, if they are lazy, and if they choose not to think like entrepreneurs, they will lose some work to AI.
That's evolution, gang. But AI, if you open up your mind and you consider the possibilities, because look, what is creativity? Creativity is finding a new and unique way to do something. Solve a problem. The problem is, how can I do something that's different? How can I do something that nobody else has ever done, right? That's what creativity is. AI is a new frontier. AI is a new art form. I mean, there are already people, and I saw somebody griping on Facebook about this one because somebody referred to themselves as an AI artist. And this person talked about this AI artist with total disdain. Like, how stupid is it that somebody would call themselves an AI artist? Look, I hate to tell you, there are going to be some freaking brilliant AI artists because at the end of the day, the AIs are getting intelligent enough and they're being programmed deep enough that you actually will have a tremendous amount of control over the output. And let's take the concept of imaging, which, as you now know, it requires 3,000 images to build your AI profile. And basically, imaging is going to take that AI profile and it's going to create a preset, if you will, that is essentially going to develop your images, right? Imagine if you could take somebody like myself, could take my style of creative fashion portraiture and build an AI with all of my creative fashion portraits, and then be able to tell that AI how I want it to create. That's not photography, the output, but it's still very creative and it's still very artistic. Now, is that what I want to do full time and is that how I want to create? No, but would I like to be able to do that? Oh, hell yes. Come on, that would be cool. That'd be really cool, right? So I'm not one of those people that's like telling you, oh, you know, AI is going to take over, you need to get on board, all this stuff. No, what I am telling you is, look, don't put your head in the sand and don't make up your mind now because there's nothing to make up your mind about. Be open-minded. We need more of that in our world, in general. Be open to change. Be open to possibilities because that's what AI is. And stop making AI the villain. No different, and you know, again, I'm not going to line up on the politics, but no different than our government is in the process of passing laws where they may ban TikTok to some degree in the United States because they have concerns with another country, political concerns. Okay, they got to work that out. In the meantime, I enjoy TikTok. I'll use TikTok, right? So again, it's about possibilities. And TikTok itself is not evil. The platform itself is not evil. The people using it are not evil. It's what could be done with it, right? So the evil part to all of this is not the AI. It's not the program. It's people. That's the part that we need to talk about. That's the part that we need to worry about. And that's what we need to keep an eye on. So again, for those people who have already found themselves on the short side of AI and who have legitimate copyright concerns, I support them 100%. And they need to, you know, they need to take the legal route to see where this is going to really settle out. I would expect down the road, you're probably going to see organizations like PPA or PSA, or both of them for that matter, and ASMP get involved with certain guidelines over how AIs are created and what can be used to contribute to an AI and how it can be used to contribute to an AI. Absolutely, nothing should ever go unchecked. But the point is, we're still very early in the beginning. If we don't find all of these problems, in other words, if we don't figure out what are all the ways that people are going to abuse this, not by guessing, but unfortunately by giving people an opportunity to abuse it, unfortunately, because that's just how things work. If we don't allow that to happen, then we don't know what we're cutting out of the possibilities. So that is my thoughts. I know that there are many that won't agree with it, and that's okay. We can agree to disagree, but for those of you that are really kind of on the fence and really haven't been sure, like, you know, how much do I need to dig into this? Where do I need to go with it? My advice is pay attention, But don't stress over it. Don't buy into all the, world is ending. This is horrible. It's going to ruin photography. No, it's not. Okay? It's just simply not. People said that about digital photography 22 years ago, and here we are. Photography is stronger than it's ever been, with more people doing photography than ever before. There's a greater interest in photography now than there has been at any point in history. And yet 22 years ago, people said that it was all over. Well, they were really, really wrong. And I'm glad that I was a very early adopter. I had one of the first Nikon D1s that came out in the stores. I am very proud of that fact because I saw the potential, as did many other people, because here we are, right? All right, so I did see a couple questions that went by. I'm going to scroll back here a little bit. TC is, in fact, I think that was the first actual question. Yes, it was. All right, TC. Is there an easy way to remember to upload photos to Instagram and Facebook without losing quality? My tack sharp pics are trashed after they're unloaded. I'm sure it's user error. TC, yeah, it's pretty much user error. I mean, there's a couple things you have to understand. Number one, the easiest solution to your problem, you can Google this, proper image sizes for Facebook, proper image sizes for Instagram, and ignore every search result that comes up, every single one, except for the page from Facebook.com and for the page from Instagram.com, because both of those websites publish their image requirements, right? I will tell you this. Facebook will apply compression to big files. On your profile header at the top especially, you're only allowed 100K. So whenever possible, upload your profile header as a .png file, not a JPEG. Instagram wants you to upload a 1080 pixel by 1080 pixel square file, which looks really small on your high resolution computer screen. But uploading an image double the size or 3 times the size is basically just making them irritated, and they're going to down-res it, right? And they're not doing it as photographers. They're doing it as a web hosting service that says this file's too big, we need it to be smaller, right? So, yeah, I mean, if you're doing like a Facebook post, you don't need more than 2,000 pixels, and even that's excessive, wide, okay? But for Instagram, 1080, that's it, that's all it is, and it's gonna look just fine. But so yes, there is a way to remember it. Go to the websites, and the reason why I'm telling you to go instead of just reading you a bunch of numbers now, just so you know, when you go, bookmark those pages because they do change from time to time. The sites will make user interface changes. They'll sometimes make some backend or programming changes, and those specs will change. So it's not like they change every other week or even every other month or even every couple of months, but they change. So just get in the habit, bookmark those pages, and then like once a year, like every January, boom, all right? And gang, we're going to talk about this before the first of the year, but all of you should have, and this is not a New Year's resolution thing, by the way. I hate New Year's resolutions. I suck at them. So I'm not suggesting any of that, but you should have an end of the year, beginning of the year checklist for your photography. Things that every single year at this time period you are reviewing. I have things that I do with my website and my marketing, like at the end of the month of December, which I'm working on right now. The beginning of the year, I have things that I do in terms of going through my gear. And I've gotten even more particular with that over the last couple of years because I've really downsized a lot of gear. I had gotten to the point where I just had ridiculous amounts of gear, especially when I was doing all the sponsored stuff. And that's a big part of why I dropped all my sponsors. So I wanted to be able to pare back to the gear that I really use and really focus on. And a lot of you are probably sitting with quite a bit of money that you could, go ahead and sell this stuff off used, get some money back, get your hands on maybe some newer pieces of things that you've really been wanting to work with, etc. So it's a matter of kind of setting yourself a set of checklists that you're going to do. And I'm going to talk about those. So just Google the proper image sizes for Facebook and separate search proper image sizes for Instagram. Even though they're owned by Meta, they each have their own separate section of their website where they give you all of that, detail. Okay. Let's see. Lem back here said trends come and go. This will find its place just like a vector design did when I was drawing with a pencil. Yeah. I mean, it's simply, trust me, anytime I find somebody that's chill about it and realistic about it, look, gang, if there's one thing I've learned as I've gotten older, and I hate the fact that I've gotten older, hate it with a passion. You can learn an incredible amount about what's happening in the moment, in the world, not just in photography, but in the world by looking backwards. Because we're living it firsthand and we're in the moment, we tend to, the emotions around it tend to be somewhat elevated, and we kind of feel like, oh my God, it's just us. It's not just us, okay? Horrible things at all levels, because believe me, this photography stuff is not horrible in the big scheme of things, but horrible stuff has happened in the world over and over and over again. But even when it comes to new technology, you can go back to the Industrial Revolution and look at the timeline on the Industrial Revolution and kind of where things settled out. That'll tell you a lot, because you'll see how it's mirroring what we're going through now. We're not at the finish line yet with the digital revolution, right? We're not. We're still pretty early on in the game. But if you go and start comparing timelines, you'll realize very quickly, like, wow, like this is pretty much mirroring what happened before. So yeah, it's not worth getting all freaked out about. It's just not. Scrolling on down here. Let's see. Paul says, I take pictures for my enjoyment. I may explore AI to create a picture when I'm ready, also for enjoyment. Yeah, and that's the whole point, guys. Okay. Let's see. Eric just got a photo shoot proposal from a model that's got an amazing lens profile and wants me to create a portrait based on it. There you go. Cool. That's an opportunity for, really a very high-end portrait project where, you're dealing with a makeup artist. You may need some styling involved. There's, good opportunity for, for money there in that respect. Okay. So let's see here, scrolling on down. ORAM, just like any other tool. By the way, I'm getting the end of this list, guys. This is going to be a short last frame tonight. If you guys don't have questions, I mean, I'm really serious. Like, I don't understand how it is, because some of you are in my group. I'm just saying, like, you're members of Taj Knowledge. You could use some help with your photography. So you're wasting an hour listening to all this crap. What is the stuff that's stopping you from posting better pictures when you post your pictures? Because a lot of you need help. Basically, you need to go do the work, but you're here instead. So let's get into, how do we improve your photography? That's why I told you straight up. There's an expectation here. All right. There's really not much more to talk about. I've literally basically had one question tonight. TC's off the hook because TC offered a question, had a problem. They now have the information to help solve that. Okay. So let's see. TC, you're uploading 5x7, 33 megapixel JPEG. Yeah, you don't measure by inches. You want to measure by pixels for sure. Okay. Adam, I always love how you roll the punches, aren't threatened by the newest and latest grace or anything. No, Adam, anything that's new is opportunity, right? It's opportunity. Life's way too short to get all freaked out. And I've never been one that always thinks things are cooler behind me than they are in front of me. Because behind me is an opportunity for me to do something different. It's an opportunity for me to maybe change the way things were in the past, whatever the topic is, right? So new is always better. New is always more exciting, period. John, with digital, Photoshop and AI photographs tell a story, evoke response, but can really no longer believe the truth or evidence. You know what, John? See, and seriously, respectfully, it's a great point you bring up, but we need to have a little discourse on that, okay? You go on. John goes on to say here, how will we photograph to truthfully document a person, place, event, and have it speak truth? John, photographs have never spoken truth. Let that sink in for a second, and then I'll continue. All right? Now, I'm serious. No games here, no BS, no funny stuff. So let me go back and read these two statements, because these are these statements that John made, and he made them very respectfully and very detailed. I've heard these echoed numerous times recently. First one, with digital, Photoshop, and AI, photographs tell a story, evoke a response, but can rarely no longer be believed as truth and evidence. And then he goes on to say how we photograph to truthfully document a person, place, event, and habit speak truth. We will do it in the same ways that we've always done it, John. Nothing will change. So let me explain what I mean. So I made a statement a moment ago that photographs have never been truth. Look, I have a lot of very, very good friends and acquaintances who are photojournalists by trade. I am honored that I count among my friends a very well-known photojournalist, Mr. Rick Friedman. I have had the opportunity to sit down and speak with and break bread with people like David Burnett. I've had the opportunity to interview David Hume Kennerly, who was an idol of mine when I was a teenager. Every one of these incredible photojournalists will acknowledge one point that I'm about to make. And that point is that as a photojournalist, when they come upon news of whatever type it is, they make a decision. Aim the camera here, 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 back here. Every one of those options tells a slightly different version of the story. So what is truth in a photograph? We have for decades, many decades, considered newspapers to be the harbingers of truthful photography because of because of journalistic ethics. That is still the case for the most part. Certainly in more recent years, there have been some stumbles and foibles since the digital realm has, come into place. There have been some very prominent newspapers whose photographers have been outed, but that was mistakes made by people. They were caught, they were dismissed, and the papers continue to be that harbinger of truth. We will still have that. And will there be more stumbles? Yes. Will there be people that try to game the system? Yes. Somebody made a comment on my Facebook post earlier today when I posted this topic about how, portrait's being truthful. And it's like, no portrait is truthful. No portrait is ever truthful. That's like the biggest, okay, for those of you that are portrait photographers, if you think that you're creating truth, nobody likes your pictures. They just don't. Somebody comes to you and says, I need a portrait done. They don't want a picture that's reality. Nobody does. They want a picture of themselves on their best day times 10. Hands down. So is that reality? Is that truth? I don't think so. That's the way that person wants to present themselves to the world in a photograph. That's not truth. So we got to be careful how we use that word. And John, I totally understand your point, but the point is, truth is something that, for something to be considered truthful, sorry, let me rephrase that. For something to be considered truthful, that has to be earned. It simply does. It has to be earned. News gathering sources historically have earned the acceptance that they are presenting truth. In the last 10 years, or probably a little bit more than that, unfortunately, that's kind of gone out the window, hasn't it? Because not so much newspapers, but we do have newspapers that are owned by very, very politically charged owners. But we have television stations that have been created, television networks that have been created for political purposes. So how do people look at those? Well, people look at Fox, and anything on Fox they know is conservative and Republican. And we're not getting into politics. I'm stating something I think we can all agree on. People look at CNN, and they know it's liberal. And it gets labeled as such. Now, is that okay? I don't think it is, but that's where we're at. That's what we have. But they're not necessarily considered truthful at this point, right? So I guess what I'm saying, John, is I think that your concern is a bigger concern than AI and photography, et cetera. And it's always been a flawed concern because photographers always had a choice over where to aim the camera. They had a choice over take the picture now or now or now. 3 very distinctly different moments, each of which can create very different meaning to what was going on, right? So, I mean, that's one of those conversations that it gets deep and there's a lot more we can talk about there, but yeah. Let's see, TM Stone 835. I think you've talked about this before, but do you recommend a watermark? Oh gosh. No, please no, please no, please no, please no. The rest of the question was, do you recommend a watermark or some type of method to create a barrier for people who grab internet images without any concern for copyright? No. If you are worried about people copying your photos on the internet, there is one simple, perfect solution. Don't put your pictures on the internet. You can put any watermark you want on your images. I'll remove it. It's not hard, especially now with the software we have today. I mean, Google even has software that'll do it for you. Google or Facebook, one of the two. I may miss. It's one of those two companies has it. It'll do it for you, right? So, yeah. When you put a watermark on images, you are making a horrible experience for the people that count the most. And what you're doing is you're taking your images down to a level where you're catering to the lowest common denominator, which is the people that are stupid, right? Because most people that are going to take your images, folks, they're not stealing from you. That's not their goal. It's just not, right? Because you got to be honest with yourself. And I'm not insulting anybody because I'll include myself in the statement. You have to ask yourself, do I have anything that's worth stealing? I don't. I just don't. I mean, that's not saying, hey, take my stuff, do whatever you want. No, 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 no. I'm just saying, I don't have anything that's worth stealing. So, you know, there will be stupid people and there will be people with disregard for others, but it's not worth ruining the experience for others. And the other piece of input that I'll give you there, TM Stone 835, think of the most famous living photographer that you can think of today, who you admire, okay? So way above my level, right? And then go to their website. You're not going to find watermarks on their pictures. Why not? Because they've taken the right approach. Their approach is, I'm going to create work that everybody will recognize as mine. So nobody's going to be able to steal it. And that's what you should all be aiming for. That's what you should all be working for. Create work that people identify as yours. My work's far from being the best work on the internet, but routinely I post a picture, people are like, I knew that was yours as soon as I saw it in the feed. And you know how that makes me feel? Yes, that's a win. Anytime somebody says that to me, that's a win. They didn't say, that's the most amazing picture I've ever seen. They didn't say, oh my God, Joe, you are so incredible. They said, I knew that was yours as soon as you posted that picture. That's exactly what I want to happen. That's why I keep telling you folks, when everybody's over here worried about AI, getting their 600-watt strobes out at high noon and shooting all that crap, I'm over here. I'm over here all by myself. Nobody's ever going to call me the best, but people will recognize what I do, the way that I do it, because I'm the only person that does it. That's the point, right? Danny, I was wondering if you use any programs to cull through photos. How good are they? I shoot mostly portraits and street photography, and I'm curious about the potential. So Scott, who was here earlier, who I was trying to get to slow down on all his chatting while I was talking, Scott works for the company Imagen, which again, if you're not shooting weddings, Imagen is of really no use to you. You could train it for event work and things like that, but that's it. I am not using anything yet, Danny, but it's getting close. Do I know of a specific piece that's getting close? No, I'm just speaking generally. If you look at the tools that are out there and the things that are coming into play, it's not going to be that long before we have software for portrait photographers that does a great job at culling and giving us the best images. So I'm confident it will happen. And when the time comes, yeah, I'll be thrilled to to do it. And just like anything else, am I just going to like flip the switch, install that software, and just stop really looking at all my images and let the software do it? Of course not. No. I'm going to let the software do its thing, and then I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to see how they compare. And I'm going to build trust in the software, because I know that when I finally find that piece of software, it's going to be new, which means, just like we talked about imaging, it's still learning. It's still getting better, right? It was about a year ago I did the interview with Imogen, maybe a little bit more. You know, they needed 5,000 then. Now here they're down to 3,000. It's learning. It's getting better, right? So we do have to realize that when we see this new technology coming, none of it's perfect right out of the box. So, you know, but indeed, if we see potential in that concept, we need to support it if we want it to get better, because that's the only way it gets better. Understand that AIs are basically just big databases. That's all they are. They're huge, huge databases. The more data in, the better the quality of the output, right? That's what it's all about, okay? Let's see here. So, what kind of fabric is great for a background that doesn't wrinkle and doesn't reflect the light too much? I actually have a video about that, Sol. It's like a crushed velour for doing portrait work and the kind of work that I know you're doing. Sol is a member of my group. Bear with me one second here, and I will find the video for you that actually shows you the material and talks about the material. So bear with me one second. So here, actually, I'll switch the screen over. I'll share the link, but also if you go to my channel and then you click the little magnifying glass, which is behind my picture, let me go there, that little magnifying glass. I'm just going to type in background, and the one that we want here is this DIY portable background stand and background material, and I will share the link for you here in the chat. That one will explain to you the material that I use. Now, if you need something bigger than that, that's a different conversation, and I really don't know of anything without going to kind of great expense, you know, in that regard. Let's see, Chibuzo, any tips to better improve skin work and portraiture? I struggle with post-production on my portraits. So, I mean, practice, 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 number one. Number two, Chibuzo, I've seen some of your work. You know that I like your work. And I've told you this, so this is not new news, but my personal opinion, I feel like you're overdoing your skin a little bit. Your work is really strong visually. You do great lighting, but your skin texture is fake. It's on that plasticky edge, right? So if that's a style choice that you really like, then it doesn't matter what the hell Joe Edelman thinks. Just let's be clear, right? But I do think the perceived quality of your work would actually be upped a little if you dial that back a little bit. But honestly, the biggest tip I would give any photographer, and this is not what you're looking for, but I'm going to be really straight with you. The biggest tip I would give any photographer on how to get better skin in portraiture is to get it right in camera, which you'll never get it 100% right in camera, but it means work with great makeup artists, right? And that's the key. I will say straight up that for many years I worked with a woman who is Russian, and her work in terms of how she blended skin was just impeccable. It's absolutely impeccable. And it made my post-production work so simple and so much more streamlined. You know, working with other makeup artists, it's not like, oh, they suck because they can't do it. It's a really advanced skill. But indeed, I'm potentially going to be spending a little bit more time on blending and things like that. It's part of the process. But the more you get right going in, the less work you got to do on the backside. But for you, really, it's a matter of keep experimenting, keep trying new things. And you've got to find your sweet spot that just really, really works for you, right? In my images, my skin is perfect. Oftentimes too perfect, meaning there are no flaws, but there's still real skin texture there. And so that's my tipping point, right? I don't want to go beyond that point where the skin looks fake, but I'm willing to go beyond the point of where most people, you know, actually have good skin to where the skin's perfect. And that's what you've got to keep, kind of experimenting with to find that sweet spot. Okay. Let's see. Eric, the 600-watt person at noon thing cracks me up. Yeah. I mean, the worst part of it is every one of these zombie things has its place, but it would be so much better for everybody if when people went out to do it, they actually did try to do something kind of unique with it, right? But instead they do exactly what they saw on some YouTube video, or more likely with a 600-watt thing at noon on a bunch of YouTube videos. And what they wind up with is just being a bad copy of all these YouTube videos. And I stress the bad copy part, right? That's the problem, unfortunately. John Truitt, I think last week you mentioned ISO. Do you have a talk coming up regarding that? I searched your library here and I didn't find one. So yeah, actually, first of all, I will be doing, right after the first of the year, I'm actually going to do a YouTube video, old school, like a video, not a last frame. But let me switch over to my calendar here. It is right here, January 10th, John. Correct exposure for digital cameras. What is it really? That's where we get into all of the exposure settings and, more importantly, the relationships behind them, and what ISO really is, all that kind of stuff. Okay. Let's see here. Scrolling on down. Aerostar 360 cameras tell the truth. There's actually a fair argument to that, right? There is, So Chibuzo, you're very welcome. All right, cool. I think I got everybody. Did I get everybody's questions here? I think I did. TC, I'm not sure what that means. My girlfriends won't let me photograph them if they look true. Oh, I get it. Look true, and they're in their 60s and 70s, so I make them look good. I leave a couple wrinkles here and there. There you go. Hey, look, in all likelihood, when they were in their 30s and 40s, they didn't want to look exactly like they did either, right? I mean, nobody really does, right? So, one of the things I'm finding, gang, and Chibuzo, I'm coming back to you with this, but to a couple of other people, this is going to be something that I think I'm going to be really dialing in on a lot in 2023. And so I'm going to throw this out there, and maybe we'll bring this back into the discussion next week. It's not going to be the topic, but maybe in the Q&A next week, we'll bring this back in, and I'll give some of you a chance to maybe weigh in on this. So I'm going to ask you, don't engage with it tonight. Just hear what I'm about to say, but do a little bit of self-evaluation this week and see if I've touched a nerve, shall we say, right? You all know that I have my Tog Knowledge community, which, by the way, I would love to have you partake in. If you're not already a member, here is the link. Check it out. But I'm finding that because of all these great resources we have available, and the keyword there is great resources, and that means everything from the incredible technology we have, the incredible software we have, incredible learning resources like YouTube, like Google, the whole internet, right? I'm finding that people see, and I'm going to blame it on the companies. It's not entirely their fault, but we're going to hold them responsible. They'll see, for instance, videos from Capture One about how incredible Capture One is. And Capture One is a very powerful raw generator. And so people that have been shooting for like 6 months, a year, people who still haven't actually read their camera manual, people who still don't really truly understand the relationships between shutter speed and ISO, they're buying Capture One and they're using Capture One. Using it poorly, I might add, because they're actually repeating the same mistakes with Capture One as they did with their gear. They haven't taken the time to learn how it really works. So they're learning just enough to get things going, and then they're just fumbling and bumbling. And what I'm finding is, legitimately, what I'm finding is, with all of this great technology and with all of these great learning resources, photographers, so this is ultimately the photographer's fault, because they're buying into the marketing. But photographers today are making photography 10 times harder than it needs to be. Part of what is going to be my mission for next year is to simplify photography. Now, for a lot of photographers, many of you included, you'll find that boring because I'm not gonna deal with the cool stuff. I'm gonna deal with the foundational stuff. Because here's the thing. I promise every one of you, you cover the foundational stuff. There is nothing that you will not be able to figure out. Swear to God. Cover the foundational stuff, you can create anything. And you can figure out anything. But jump ahead into the really advanced stuff before you've got the foundation, and you will stumble and fumble and bumble over and over and over again. I guarantee it. It all comes down to one thing. If you want to be good at photography, do the work. And that brings us to a close. So I want to thank all of you for hanging out with me tonight, okay? If you've been watching, I hope that you found some value with what I shared. But you owe me now. Get out and use the cameras this weekend, right? Don't come back if you didn't use your cameras. But remember, look, you're not getting any younger. You've got less time left ahead of you than you did yesterday. So go pick up that camera and shoot something. Because your best shot, it's your next shot. Do the work, gang. Adios.